So Air was directed by Ben Affleck and it stars Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, Chris Tucker, Marlon Wayans, Chris Messina, and Viola Davis. And it's about Sonny Vaccaro, played by Matt Damon, who had this brilliant idea and he tried to get everyone at Nike involved to create a shoe line revolving around Michael Jordan to kind of entice him to sign on with Nike. And that's basically it. So this is a movie that I was kind of intrigued by, but also not intrigued by at the same time. Mainly I was intrigued by the cast and the director behind it. Obviously, everyone I mentioned in that cast, and also Ben Affleck is a pretty solid director. I've liked the majority of his movies, and also I was not intrigued by this movie because it seemed odd to me that this is a movie that was being based around the guy who not invented, but like came up with the idea of Air Jordans rather than the idea of like making a movie revolving around Michael Jordan. I felt that was kind of odd. It just didn't seem like an interesting idea. And then again, I really shouldn't listen to myself because I actually did enjoy this movie. This was a really good time. Mainly the actors do a really good job in this movie. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, Chris Tucker, Marlon Wayans, they all have like really good chemistry with each other. And at times, like their dialogue is very funny. It definitely feels like realistic dialogue. I felt like it just didn't feel like they were like, trying to play characters. They were like actually being those characters. And also like the way they spoke, it was actually pretty funny, surprisingly. Like I didn't expect this movie to be as funny as it was, but there were times where I was definitely laughing throughout the movie. Chris Messina has a really funny moment where he's like talking to Ben Affleck on the phone, and I thought that was really funny. Viola Davis is not nearly as funny as those people, but like she also provides a lot of the heart of the movie as she plays Michael Jordan's mother in the movie, which that was like the main request. Michael Jordan was like, yeah, have Viola Davis play my mom. And she did a really good job. She provides a lot of the hearts, the emotion of this movie. And it kind of like goes to another thing I really like about the movie is that it focuses both on the family aspect and the business aspect. Like you can't really have one without the other. It's kind of seemed like this whole idea where it just, it's about him and about the shoe is basically about Michael Jordan and what he can become with this whole shoe line. Not just with the shoe line, but like what he can do with the NBA. There are a lot of moments where it's like, okay, you can't really have one without the other, and it actually does really work. Like there's this scene towards the end where Viola Davis is talking to Matt Damon on the phone, and he thinks it's going one way, but Viola Davis is like, this is what we got to do first. And that was actually one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie where, I'm not going to spoil it, but you kind of know it's going to happen. But at the same time, it's like, you should have thought of this ahead of time, Matt Damon. Oh well. But overall, I do really enjoy the movie. And I also kind of like the idea where it's like, we kind of need people in our lives in order to be really successful. Like, we had Matt Damon have all these people involved with his life. Again, Ben Affleck, Chris Tucker, Jason Bateman, who all like really came together for this idea eventually and kind of grew with the idea. And also you had, Michael Jordan and his family being like, we kind of need each other to support each other. And I thought that was really well done throughout this movie. The only things I really don't like in this movie are mostly kind of just nitpicks. The first is obvious. Michael Jordan himself doesn't appear in the movie. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about Michael Jordan actually appearing in this movie, but I mean, like, there's no actor playing Michael Jordan in this movie, and I thought that was kind of odd at first. Like, like, how can you have a movie with arguably one of the biggest names in any media and not feature him in the movie? I thought that was kind of odd. So, and then when you actually see the movie, it's kind of odd when you have Viola Davis and you also have Jordan's dad, like, kind of talking with Matt Damon at one point. But you see a stand-in for Michael Jordan just kind of like looking in the back like, that's interesting. Like, how it just kind of looked odd to me. Like, I can understand, like, looking into, like, what Ben Affleck had said is, like, no one can match Michael Jordan and everything like that. It's like no one can match, like, how big of a name he was. So it's like we kind of didn't even try with that. So it's like, okay, I can kind of understand that. But at the same time, I'm also just thinking, you could have done a little better than that than just having a stand and kind of looking around and just kind of doing nothing. Also, the soundtrack I thought was a little bit generic. And even though the songs in it are really good, I just felt like the soundtrack was just incredibly generic and it just didn't do too much for me. And also, it kind of has a lot of cliches with a lot of these true story movies, including like the ones where it's like, oh, this is what happened with this person after the events of this movie or something like that. What was kind of odd is that they do like a one random clip where it's like, this is what happened afterwards. And then the movie continues for another 10 minutes. And I'm like, That's odd. And then they continue on with like, okay, this is what happened with these people, this is what happened with this person, and all that. It just felt odd that they would just do this random blip and it was like, okay, we're going to go back to the movie and then go back to that. Why would you do that? Like, why not just continue the movie and then do all of those things at the end? Like, I guess, you know, to try to avoid the cliche, but at the same time, you are being cliche, but oh well. Air overall, I did enjoy it, mainly for the performances, mainly because it's a lot funnier than I expected, and mainly because, like, it's surprisingly, like, not necessarily nicer, but, like, the heart is there a lot more. The performances are pretty good, particularly from Viola Davis, Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck. All do a really good job. And even though I kind of don't like some of the things in this movie, like how Michael Jordan's kind of used in this movie, and admittedly some cliches in the soundtrack, I still think Air was a pretty good time. I'll give it 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what's your favorite true sport movie? Comment down below. Subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.